Now. Hey everyone, what's going on? Ryan here with AdWords and SEM. We're going to talk about why do we do AdWords. We're going to talk about making a business case for it. I got a little towel on my arm also. And we're going to talk about the history of it. Take it away, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Nathan.
No problem.
All right, so as you mentioned, we're going to be talking about SEM today. And if you guys don't know what SEM means, it's search engine marketing. So it's kind of a catch-all phrase for anything we do related to Google search. And now there's two components to that. There's organic search and then there's paid search. Throughout the presentation, we're going to make the difference or explain the difference between the two. And if you guys have any questions, the end part of that, I guess this presentation is so that you guys are armed with the knowledge that there is a difference between both the paid and the organic. So we're going to go through a little bit of the history first. Then we're going to go into how to set up an AdWords campaign and what you can do with it. Then we're going to do a little exercise and bring it all tied into how we as marketers and ad agency people can interact with SEM. Just ask me questions as you go, or as we go, and feel free to enjoy some champagne as we go through it. So
thanks for champagne, Ryan.
No worries, man. I bought this bottle last year when I incorporated, and I was keeping it actually as a safe little thing, as for a time to celebrate. Champagne, you always drink champagne to celebrate. So again, new friends, new perfect. And again,
you haven't even done your presentation yet, and we're just so impressed.
I'll stop now if you guys are said, no. And just to give you guys a little context about me, as some of you may not know who I am. As you know, my name is Ryan. But other than that, I basically, I'm a business background, so business marketing is my thing. I went to Dalhousie 2003 to 2007. When I graduated from Nova Scotia, I started working for the Department of Energy in Nova Scotia on some alternative energy sources for the province. Specifically, I was managing their website and helping them try to get new sources of traffic, and so that was like my roots in SEM and SEO. When I moved back to Toronto, I started working at Staples head office in Richmond Hill. I'm from Unionville Markham, so that was really easy and convenient for me coming back from university. There I basically was in charge of email marketing. I advanced into the search or the SEM part of Staples Delivery, which is their online division. I grew their basically SEM campaign from $2,000 a month to about $20,000 a month, specifically proving out with real-time data and our analytics team that there's a huge ROI for Staples and any basically e-com that does it correctly. They found out that for every dollar they put in, they made $1.87 back.
Whoa.
So
wow. Store 99.
Exactly, all store 99. All right, so that just kind of paints the picture a little bit about what we're talking about. I'm going to go right now into that history, just so we can get a better understanding of where we've come along the way. Yes. All right. So, and also, if you guys have ever seen this, is Prezi. So it's super awesome, especially for non-creative people like myself, that can just kind of plug and play an out-of-the-box solution, a little bit more than just PowerPoint. So I want to start off in the 2000s. So the tech crunch and the birth of SEM. So everybody understands what I mean by the tech crunch, I'm assuming. So basically 99, millennium, yay, like Y2K didn't really happen. However, all these companies like Nortel, other massive conglomerates, all their stock crashed. And a lot of people lost their shirt. Not quite like the Great Depression, kind of shirt losing, but it was basically a moment in time of which tech grew too fast and the value wasn't there. And the market corrected itself very quickly and very dynamically. However, what grew out of that were companies like Google. And Google basically has now set the tone. The fact that it's even a verb now, Google that, or I've Googled, it's entered our vocabulary now as part of just everyday life. But that wasn't so about 15 years ago. So it's really, even in our lifetime, amazing to see how far we've come just with the Google services and that interconnection. So 2000, Google AdWords launches with 350 customers. This, if I can zoom in a little bit, just sorry for the shitty screenshot, but essentially that's what a text ad looked like very first in 2000. So very, like, the Google interface looks so ancient now compared to what it is now, but that was essentially all you could do for marketing with Google and search engines in 2000.
It's so ancient, yet so much the same.
Right? As a brand, they've been successful at doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's the anti-alias font.
Right. And to put this also into context even for myself, I was in grade 10. So grade 9, grade 10, this is my world. I had no clue. I might have been like, I want to do business school. That was about maybe as far professionally as my head has gotten.
Were you on the internet at that point?
Yeah, no, because I went to private school, so all our stuff was like the equivalent of whatever WebCT was in university. We had that in grade 9, and I came from my elementary school very computer illiterate compared to these other kids, and I had to catch up really fast. So I'm like, parents, I need a laptop, I need Rogers internet or high speed, whatever they're calling it.
Simpatico.
Yeah, exactly, whatever, right? No, I had Shaw cable. It was like the first consistent high speed, whatever it was. Anyways.
Did you get internet on your CDs? AOL?
Yeah. No, floppy disk, man.
Yeah,
You remember?
it was like 30 minutes free or something.
Exactly, 30 minutes. Okay, 2001 now. 1 year ahead, Google launches Google Images, which is a section of their algorithm in their search engine. That's significant because this becomes a forerunner of the display network, which we'll get into later. So basically, Google in modern day has 2 different kind of networks. They have their Google Search Network, which is, again, when you go to Google, type in anything and you get results. That's utilizing the search network. When you are browsing, say, the other websites and you see ads that you may engage with and then you click to that other person's site, that's utilizing display banners and the display network. So that is the forerunner in 2001. Also notable events in 2001, 9/11. I mean, like a lot of crazy things were happening in this time, but very much so on the tech side as well, which might have been dwarfed in comparison to some of the political events that were going on. Fast forward to 2002, AdWords gets a massive overhaul to its new CPC pricing. So for the longest time when Google started out, there wasn't really an auction system. Like there was, but there wasn't anything really dynamic about it. It was kind of like set a budget, get your ads up, and Google will try to set it throughout the day. In 2002, which was so sophisticated for its time, was it introduced an auction. So every keyword basically known to Google then had a market value, much like a stock. And depending on the performance of your website, you could probably get low cost per clicks to maximize your return for Google real estate placements. So that's really, in essence, where the game started for SEM. Moving to 2003, Google launches AdSense and its new content targeting advertising service. This is a twofold approach. AdSense allows users to make money off of Google. During that time, even a lot of people I knew thought it was a scam. People are like, Google's gonna write me a check for views and visits and traffic? No way. But then all of a sudden people started getting checks and stuff just came rolling in. And this also became the next part of the backbone of the display network. Again, as I mentioned, other ads that are on display across the internet, that is allowed basically by AdSense. And there's a way that the end user can profit from that as well.
When I signed up for my first AdSense account, I clicked on my own ads and I got dinged.
Right. Right. Where's that Wawa? No,
I tried to make a quick buck.
Yes.
Hey Ryan, who are some of the first adopters of using Google AdWords? Who are some of the companies that
brands wise and stuff?
Yeah.
It's interesting because all that, say that 350 even,
yeah.
a lot of it was blue chip stocks, so big companies,
Okay.
but also a lot of it was, at least in Canada, and it was governments, like StatsCan was the example I put out there. So a lot of government bodies kind of jumped all over it because they saw it as a very cost-effective way of traditional marketing at the time, to running a TV spot or running a radio even commercial. The cost per clicks at that time were super effective. But Google, like anything now too, they beta everything, and they almost have I don't know exactly who was included in that original beta, but they had a pretty good idea from the research. We would like these brands to be our test so we can prove the case or whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're leaving the kind of the history section. Now I'm a little bit of history in here too, but I wanted to basically compare tech stock to performance in SEM trends. So we're gonna basically look at some historical stock values of these tech companies, and I wanna show you what kind of happens throughout that process so we get a sense of where we are today and the dominance of anything from Facebook to AdWords to Bing, Yahoo, etc. So first thing, 2004, Google goes public. So of course, if there's any explanation of that, you mean they basically got an IPO. So they hit the NASDAQ on August 19, 2004. This is a great quote I love from Larry Page and Sergey Brin that said, "We believe strongly that in the long term, we will be better served as shareholders and in all other ways by a company that does good things for the world, even if we forego some short-term gains." So at that time, they're talking about Google organic search. People just, hey, the more relevant we make this machine, this API thing, the more we're gonna get rewarded and people are going to use our service. Clearly that theory and mentality works. I just want to show you the next slide is this is the opening.
If I could do.
Right? Exactly. $50 is what Google stock opened at.
Wow.
Okay? And I mean, some people probably track it more than others. In the first year, though, you can see the growth. Like, this is even 1 year, they're essentially doubled their stock value. And it's time and in place.
Stocks value.
Current price as of March 5th, $581.43 a share. Massive. Even if you could have waited a year to buy the stock, you still would have made 5 times or more your money.
What the heck? Oh, that's
So,
insane.
and you wonder too, like even Apple has been credited as the largest known brand in the world or America or the West. They do not even compare to that trading at that stock price. And again, why is stock price important? It doesn't have necessarily a reflection on the technology but in a way it is. I think that stock is professionals scrupulating everything about a company to its finest detail and literally translating that forecast, insight, whatever, into real-time money. I don't know if there gets anything more real about an assessment of a company than, unfortunately, the very black and white thing that is the stock market. So that's kind of what I'm trending at. Moving forward, now we're going to look at stock in terms of the search engine networks. So, first up, Yahoo Bing. Again, I would love this. Yahoo Bing peaked at December 31st, 1999. Literally the minute before the millennia hit. They were like, yeah, this is going to be such a good 2000 for us. Yeah, not so much. However, so this isn't, again, this isn't usership, this is stock price. So you can see there's a massive drop in the early 2000s. It does get back up into, say, the early to mid 2000s, back down again as Google services continue to rise. But nice to see around 2012, 2013, that it does continue to go up.
Why do you think it goes up at that time?
Great question. And that answer is SEM, paid search ads.
Ooh.
Bing now represents 10% of all search queries online. For them, that's a huge jump. Even though they have fallen from grace, they're now resaturating their market. A big part of the rise in Bing has actually been the Xbox network. The fact, Dropbox, a lot of these Microsoft-based services are what keeps their content network kind of alive and also somewhat sizable. So, and that was another interest, like kind of touching on what Jeff presented in his Facebook, was that I think he said something like 82% of Facebook's revenue comes from ads, which is great. But they've only been doing that, collecting that revenue since 2012, 2013. So it's great that Facebook has this new kind of lease on life and a new business model, but they have only been killing it for the last 2 years, where Google has been creaming on this since literally 2004. And I bring up the point about the Facebook. If we look again, here's the stock when it opened in 2012, May 25th. I think it was about $38 a share. I don't know if anybody owned any Facebook stock or not. But currently it's trading at about $80. So again, good investment. The question is, has it peaked? Have we seen as far as Google stock can go? We know that userships are starting to flatten out. We know that even the younger generation is starting to not engage with it as much. Mark, you did a perfect example of saying like it's more communication now with social media, less about broadcasting and like general kind of things you're throwing up. YouTube just recently outpaced Facebook as the #1 social media site. Now, I don't think people are using or replacing Facebook with YouTube per se, but just in terms of media, things being shared, commented on, that as a tool, it is now larger than Facebook, which I thought was really interesting.
I
Finally.
can hardly believe it.
Yeah, he was a little surprised by that. He's like,
We're all choked up about that. I know you love social, but
I'm really scared.
it's just real talk.
This is just real talk.
Wow.
Real talk with Ryan.
nothing
talk
new
about
about
that,
that is real.
Real talk. So looking at Google AdWords, again, this is trending their stock over time, and clearly, other than some little dips here and there, this has always been a phenomenal stock. I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying it now. Maybe wait till like they have a little bad PR or bad next privacy issue, and then maybe pick up your shares. But like I've even had friends that have worked at Google since here, and getting even employee stock pricing, they've held their stocks, and like literally that's their retirement plan. It's like
What?
we're holding maybe like very few shares of stock in Google, but we have preferred Google stock. We're gonna put this aside and hopefully on a rainy day when we're like 60, done working, we cash it. So again, that could be a financial model for some people. What I love all this is before 2000, everyone struggled with how to make money on the internet. And it was like quick money or quick scheme. E-com kind of changed that a little bit because people could say, okay, transaction for real product, we can track that. SEM and Google, I think, has really added that other layer of sophistication to not only companies and brands generating more revenue, but people like ourselves being able to make an income, make an industry out of these services that Google basically offers for free. Okay, so that is basically, oh yeah. So how does AdWords work? I think this is a good time to transition because I'll address any questions if anybody has any like specifics, but I want to dive in specifically to what AdWords is a little bit more, what the settings are, how we set up, so basically you guys have an understanding of, as an agency, why this is such an important service to offer our clients. So I gotta switch up presence for this. Okay. So, So, welcome to the Alps.
It's like a campaign idea for rep selling.
So we're at SEM base camp or boot camp. The ground floor, basically our objective is to create our first AdWords account for our client. Obviously this is very high level, there's a lot more to setting up a campaign, but I just want to give you guys a basic feel and I'll run through it really quick. Campaign settings. So this is essentially, if you think of AdWords and an account creative as a tree, this is the trunk of the tree. So this is all the things like our bids, our settings, time of day, that network thing I mentioned about Google search versus display. If we wanted a remarketing campaign only, and I'll explain what that is, but essentially another kind of way of targeting, we would set all that in our networks. Location. AdWords can target country, province, state. We can get into the radius of an area. So if we want to target our ads 50 kilometers anywhere around Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, we can set that. Even creepy enough, you can get to the postal code. If you have a postal code list, you can say like, and I've had many things before, like literally we have our mailing list. Can you take our mailing list and target our ads specifically just to those people? No problem, we can do that if we have that intel. So that's a super awesome function that a lot of either SEM services like LinkedIn and Facebook, though they have great targeting options as well, Google has, I think, the most sophisticated there. Looking at AdWords, the auction again. So I mentioned that every keyword, every phrase has its own auction value. Basically, the model that we select is called cost per click. So you only pay for those clicks that somebody pays for. The other option is called CPM, cost per thousand, where you pay basically for impressions, which is a really silly marketing mentality. Unless you're a brand that you're just going for that impression count number, you would likely never set your campaign to be on CPM. Mobile bid strategy. There's a multiplier in AdWords. So you're like, okay, I want to bid $5 for this keyword or these group of keywords, but you know what? That keyword is so important for me for a mobile audience. I'm willing to spend 25, 50, or 100% more as a multiplier for that bid. All that gets set in the settings. Finally, the ad scheduling. Time of day. Do we want it to run between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.? Do we want it to run 5 p.m. to 10 a.m.? Do we want it not to run on certain days? Do we have a contest, like for Turkish Air, for example, and we want it to expire on a day, and like even if I got hit by a bus or something, that we know
Oh no!
it's
Sorry, I
going to be
just
there on the
totally.
screen. Right, okay, settings. So we covered off the settings, that's the trunk of the tree. Keywords and ad groups. These are like the branches and the leaves of the tree, and that keywords essentially is the cornerstone. It's really hard to run an effective SEM campaign without having some sort of forethought to what keywords you're going to be targeting. Now, keywords can be as simple as, let's say like we're a hotel, Fairmont Hotel. That could be a very general search term that you can use. It's probably not very effective because it'd be very costly. We call that, it's like a short tail of search. Ideally what we're looking for are search phrases. The longer the phrase, the lower the cost per click, generally speaking. And the higher the ROI will be potentially for the client if you can prove that it converts. So keyword research is a big part of the setup and ongoing optimization process of something an SEM manager would do. Google also offers great tools for like the keyword planner, where you can literally type into the website a couple ideas of what you're kind of trying to target, and it will spit out ideas on other keywords and other groups. General rule of thumb, best practice, 10 to 20 keywords per ad group. Some campaigns can be as simple as one campaign, one ad group with 5 keywords, but they're the best keywords that fit that, and they put all their energy in just making sure that they have top score and top performance for those areas. Again, ad groups are just a collection of like keywords, which will be judged daily based on their quality score. Really quick about quality score, Google every day will evaluate your keyword list. They give you a score out of 10. If you're the ideal or prime spot to be is 7 to 10 out of 10. If you're less than that, your ads will still show, you're just gonna pay more for it. So if you ever look at a client and say, why is this, for the same keyword list, more expensive for client X versus client B? Well, one could be that keyword list might have a higher quality or a higher quality score than the other person, and that would explain why 2 people in the same industry with the same keywords could have very different prices. You just gotta write it.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're serious about taking it, you get 2 hours. Google locks your whole computer. You can use a side computer if you want to check out some stuff if you're really desperate. And it's exactly all multiple choice, and it's exactly like, I don't know if anyone's ever done any like SATs or standardized tests, but it's essentially what is the most right. So generally 2 of them you can probably dismiss right away if you're comfortable with the material, but 2 of them are going to be very close. And it's like, which is the more correct answer from a Google relevancy perspective? Ooh. So it can get a little nasty, but it's also a great feeling when you do get it and you see the like pass and you're like, yes, I'm Google certified. I don't need Google. So quick checklist in terms of launching your campaign. Campaigns enabled. That's actually a super easy one to, sometimes people, they don't want their campaigns to start getting called by Google, so they'll pre-actively disable them, and then they want to launch their campaign and they're like, why am I not getting results? Right, because you have everything paused. So that's just a quick checklist. Check your campaigns, ad groups, and keywords, make sure they're all enabled. Best practices, daily budget for your campaign should be greater than your industry average CPC. And by that, what I mean is if you have to set a daily budget to all your campaigns. If you have $10 a day to spend and your average click for your industry is $12, there's a problem there. Either you've undersold the expectation to the client about how much you need for your campaign, or you haven't done enough work on your keyword side to try to bring those cost per clicks to a more reasonable level. So that's one thing to consider. Ad groups that are enabled, also the CPA is greater than the first page bid. Google will give you this in columns, what the average first page bid across all other players are, so you can benchmark where you stand in your threshold. Keywords, as I mentioned, that quality score of 7 out of 10 will ensure that you're paying probably the lowest cost per click for your development. Billing settings, obviously you need a credit card on the board to just get going. Generally, I always like to let other clients put their credit cards in. In our case, if we're offering a full service solution, it makes sense to absorb those costs and then pass them along to the client later on. Promotional codes are always a good thing too, and that's where we get it from the Google partners. We have Google partners, we can also get trackable codes, give it to our clients, and then show to Google as an agency, hey, look how many more referrals and new business we drove for you this month. When working on projects, conversion codes are key. Lets us know specifically to the keyword or ad type level how things are converting online. And again, a conversion is a desired action. That could be build out a lead form and hit a thank you page on. That could be a conversion that we can track and give as real-time data to the client. And connecting your AdWords account to other Google properties such as your Google Analytics, your Webmaster Tools, and I'm learning more and more places for business. Ad extensions, which I won't go into too much detail, but essentially it's where your location pops up in your ad, that now gets pulled from Google Places. You can no longer manually override that in AdWords. So if you don't have those profiles set correctly, have any questions or go through anything else?
Question.
Yeah, of course.
So if before you've done any of this kind of like work with the client, if it's just like a very initial conversation and they haven't given you any information really, and they say like, oh hey Ryan, I'm this company and I've got, I'm starting to get interested in search engine marketing and how much should I be spending a month on SEM? Like how do you kind of start that conversation and give them context to like either what's a normal budget for their industry or, how do you kind of start with like a baseline that they can then work up to?
Great question. And I think there's a couple ways of attacking that problem. One being, if you have a pretty good idea of what that client's niche market is. I sat down with these guys that do like restaurant makeover. They're like food consultants. And I looked at their keyword volume for a food consultant in Toronto specifically, not that expensive in terms of keywords. So I would even go lower on their initial investment with AdWords just to try to get some data. And I always think minimum, I would never want to charge anybody or recommend anything less than $300 a month for 2 reasons. One, anything less than that is going to be really hard for you to prove for any industry that this is effective. Second of all, if you think about it back to that average daily budget, you have $300 and you have 30.5 days, that gives you about $10 a day to play with. Anything less than that, given some of these cost per clicks, even in like a random consulting industry like this, it's just the equation. It's like, how much am I really going to get with this small amount of budget? 350 to 500, I always think for a small, like 1 to 2 person business that's kind of either starting up or starting to scale is always a reasonable budget. But what I'd love to is also about AdWords, we can launch and it will spit back real time information about how much I'm losing, like impression share or market share, due to my current budget. So it will know basically of all the click volumes, all the potential leads that are maybe even out there. You know, if we spend 25% or 40% more, we would generate X more clicks. We spend more per day, it would probably drive more of these sales or more of these conversions. And that's how basically I would work over time with the client saying, hey, this is what we got for you. Here's your baseline. We want to improve that. And also here, by spending 10 grand, 5 grand, 2 grand more, here is going to be your likely outcome. And hopefully that you've built up enough trust with the client, either in the prospecting or in other campaigns, that they trust you to say, right, like, no, they're diligent, they have a model, they have a strategy. I'd be fine giving them an extra 2 grand to go and experiment, test, see what they can do for my business.
And what would be like a minimum time frame that you would say? So if like
To
300
test,
is
yeah.
the minimum spend, like what would you say is like a good time frame to?
I always 90 days.
90 days.
Not only from a data perspective, but just like looking at data over time. I think 90 days is a perfect. Because even sometimes if you look at data, more data is generally always good. But if you look at 12 months data, a lot happens to a business in 12 months.
Yeah.
What might have been trending last year may not be relevant anymore. So they might be like, hey, like I had all these clicks or something like last month. Like, well, yeah, because you did that social media push or something like that.
Yeah.
You didn't do that this year. Your clicks are going to be down. Doesn't mean you're losing business, or conversions are still coming in, or you're still getting business inquiries that way. Did I hit that question?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope I didn't nerd out too hard there. Apparently I get really excited about this stuff, but
That was really, really good, Ryan.
Yeah.
You did a really good job.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I really like the background stuff because I didn't really know
Yeah.
a lot about that.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't even started learning about it till like 2007. So anything pre that I really didn't know. I didn't even know AdWords was around that long.
And honestly, I think they didn't even know really what they were going to do with it. Like they're just like, we have this idea, and now 96% of Google's money comes from AdWords. Oh, sorry, 96% of Google's money comes from advertising, 70% of which comes from AdWords, 30% comes from AdSense.
Wow.
So that's kind of the breakdown there, and why they're doing, like, why they have the money to do all their crazy projects and whatever is literally because of advertising for the last 12 years.